Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm gonna switch up today's video a little bit. I'm gonna give you guys my hottest takes from every single game in week 8. Instead of throwing the stats at you, I'm just gonna run down what I think was most important from these games real quickly, as it did not seem like the previous videos had a lot of value to you, and I'm always looking to improve and get better to get you guys the content that you are looking for. As always, I am looking over every single game from Thursday to Sunday. Make sure that you smash the like button on this one if you enjoy it, and if you would not mind subscribing to the channel as well, that helps me out a ton. Very, very close, need about 9 more now to get to that 500 mark. So let's continue that momentum with this one. With that out of the way, let's get into this Relentless Rundown. And we are gonna start with the Ravens holding off the Bucs 27-22. For Tampa Bay, they may be done, is my hottest take. It might be over for this team as far as what they wanted to do into the playoffs and hopefully a deep run. However, from a fantasy perspective, the Bucs are still gonna be able to put up points. They're going to continue to produce, so I am not selling them off even though they've looked really poor at times. And for the Ravens, it comes down to this. It does not matter one bit who is in the backfield for Baltimore. Now that makes it really hard as owners to decide who we're gonna start week to week, but whatever is the number one running back for that game, they are going to produce more often than not. The Ravens breed fantasy points from that running back position. So as an owner, if you have one of these pieces, it's really gonna be a guessing game from here on out, I think, but there's going to be flex appeal. However, that's probably all it is. The Falcons game was a crazy ending. They steal it in the end against the Panthers, 34-37. I said this a couple weeks ago in my buy sell. I was all about DJ Moore after that Christian McCaffrey trade because there's really no one else in this offense that can consistently produce. He is back, is my hottest take. If you did not buy him when I told you to, it is probably too late right now. He's got 221 yards in his last 2 games. He's also scored in each of them. He is going to produce down the stretch for owners. The Broncos in London survived the Jags 21-17. My hot take is this for Denver. This offense will not put it together for the entire season. Russell Wilson is just not the same guy. And without a running game to support him, they were putrid once again on the ground. I think they averaged 3.5 yards a carry. It keeps them off schedule. Wilson is no longer the dude that is going to be able to overcome that. If you can sell pieces from the Broncos offense, I would do that. Quick shout out to the Jags game, because probably my favorite call so far this season has been on buying Travis Etienne 3 weeks ago. He continues to dominate. He is now seeing his stock in the stratosphere. He had a monster game here. The Dallas Cowboys lay it on Chicago. Big blowout here, 49-29. For the Bears, this is my hottest take. Khalil Herbert is the back to own for the Bears. He had 16 carries in this one. He was a yard short of 100, and he also scored. He's got 28 carries in his last 2, and over his last 3 games, he is averaging over 5 yards a carry. He looks like the more explosive back, and I think that the Chicago Bears are going to continue to utilize him more and more as we proceed. And for the Cowboys, free Tony Pollard, the hashtag sensation, showed itself. It was a thing for a reason. The Cowboys do not need Zeke Elliott. Pollard is going to be just fine. Of course, Zeke is coming back. But my hot take is that they don't need him. He can stay on the bench and let Tony Pollard continue to eat. He would be a top 15 back if anything happened long-term to Zeke. The Dolphins are able to fend off the Lions 31-21 after getting behind early. Tua Tagovailoa is going to be a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the season. He'd be even higher if the schedule for the Dolphins, through the air at least, was not so difficult. I just think with the weapons that he has and the offense that Miami is running, there is very few teams that are going to be able to slow them down. The Lions, on the other hand, it's a little bit of a negative take, but it's DeAndre Swift is no longer an RB1 that we can trust in fantasy. He had only 12 touches in this game. Jamal Williams had 13. But more importantly, and this is something that we have seen all season long, Jamal Williams is the goal line back for the Lions. He is the one that they're going to hand it off to inside the 5. He vultured 2 scores once again in this one. I think that's the 4th or maybe the 3rd game this season where that has happened. Swift becomes very hard to trust as anything more than a high-end to mid-range RB2. One of my favorite games of the week, let's not kid ourselves. My Minnesota Vikings going to 6-1. They laid on the Cardinals 34-26. And my hot take is that the Vikings are going to have a top 5 offense by the time this year wraps up. There are so many weapons for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook is starting to look better on a touch-to-touch basis. We know all about Justin Jefferson on the outside, and Adam Thielen has been an excellent complementary piece. Now let's not forget KJ Osborne, who once again made a couple key catches in this one for Minnesota. I think that the Irv Smith injury hurts them, but it just condenses those targets, so it's great for fantasy owners because now I think Osborne has to come into play as a potential flex depending on the matchup. Cousins has been a solid top 10 guy for the season so far. Minnesota's offense is one that you want plenty of pieces from. For Arizona, it's all about the receiving core that you want the weapons from moving forward. Rondale Moore, my favorite pickup from a couple weeks ago, had 7 catches on 8 targets, 92 yards and a score. He is going to continue to be heavily utilized. Of course, Nuke Hopkins dominates. He picked up right where he left off last season. He went for a $159 in this one. Had one of the best catches, maybe the best catch of the week, where he snagged a laser beam in the back of the end zone with one hand. I am still buying James Conner because he has worked in the passing game for Arizona. To the Saints game, they stymie the Raiders 24-0. Hot take number 1, Vegas is done. They're 2-5 after this game. Their offensive line got completely dominated, and Derek Carr does not have the skills to be able to rise above that. So goodbye, Vegas. They still should be decent in fantasy. If you didn't sell high on Josh Jacobs, you might be kicking yourself, although I think he is fine. The next game I am looking at is the New England Patriots winning their 13th straight against the Jets. Hot take number 1 and only one for this one is that Bailey Zappi needs to be the starting quarterback for New England, and I'm not sure that it's particularly close. Mac Jones threw an absolutely horrible pick in this one, and the offense has just looked better overall with Zappi at the helm. The Eagles demolished the Steelers 35-13, and the hot take for this game is that the Eagles defense is actually worth trading for. They're going to be a top 5 unit for the rest of the season. They have some awesome matchups down the stretch, and the addition of Robert Quinn to this team only makes them more dangerous. The Commanders hold off the Colts 17-16. Maybe we need to bench all of our Colts at this point because Sam Ehlinger, I think next week against Bill Belichick, is in for a long game. It was nice to see Jonathan Taylor get a little bit more work and see some success. Michael Pittman was fine, but I do not foresee good things happening next week against New England. The 49ers decimate the Rams 31-14. And this is a big one, guys, because you know how much I do not like Jimmy Garoppolo, but hot take here, he is going to be a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the season. His schedule is absolutely awesome. It lines up really nicely. He's got weapons for days in this offense. It's really too easy for him not to finish top 10 for the rest of the year. To Seattle, where the Hawks smashed the Giants 27-13. I think what we can pull from this game is that Seattle's offense is going to be able to keep this up for at least 4 more weeks. They get Arizona, Tampa Bay, who's been struggling, the Raiders, who are a complete mess, and the Rams, ditto. So we need to lock in our Hawks into our lineups. They will continue to produce for us for a month or more. And then finally, great way to cap off the week for me, the Bills cream the Packers 27-17. Hot take, Green Bay's problems are deeply rooted. They are done. It's over with. Forget about it, cheeseheads. Maybe next year you'll have a little bit better luck. And this really comes down to not anything individual as far as the defense or the offense. This is all about Aaron Rodgers not being a leader. He does not know how to take a team that is not built ripe around him for success and transform it into one that can find ways to win. This is something that I actually said in the offseason. I did a video on what are the Packers going to be, what could their outcomes be for the season, and I equated it to this. Rodgers has never had to build the rapport with his wide receivers when it actually mattered because he just had Devontae Adams or Jordy Nelson who could make plays for him. Well, guess what? When you have Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and Robert Tonyan, you have to be the one that takes the reins of your team and shows these guys how to be pros. That is not in Rodgers' DNA. You can tell by him yelling at the team, calling out his playmakers instead of taking any sense of ownership himself. So Green Bay, your season's done. And as a Vikings fan, that is absolutely beautiful. And that is everything. Short, sweet, and to the point for today's video. Let me know what you guys think about the takes. Let me know if you have any questions. I love to be able to answer them for you. Make sure you keep an eye out because Relentless Press has a ton of content coming out every day, every single week. I'm doing 10 videos or more. If you do not subscribe to the channel, you just might miss something, and oh, what a shame that would be. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and I will see you next time.